What is holding you back? Where are you trying to go? We have to first map out what our true process is. What does our business really look like? What is helping? What is hurting? And in some cases, we realize we don't need transformational change. We just need an incremental change. We get to a point where we're working so much or doing so much that we just aren't able to give everything we can to it. When we don't have a balance here, we're also burning bridges at every place. When you find yourself in that moment where it's hard to move forward, remember your why. Know that slowing down is not quitting, and the only time you can fail is if you hang it up.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Hey guys, we're back with another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm going to be your host today. And in our studio, we have Danielle Bennett. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on this show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure. This is going to be a cool show. Danielle has some really cool thoughts around leadership and leadership thoughts. So let's get into this. But before we do it, let's do this. If you haven't done it already, I would be in extreme gratitude if you would like, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. So without further ado, let's get to it. So Danielle, you know the drill. Who are you? What do you do? And why do you do what you do?
I'll give you the short version. If you want more, you can ask. But I'm Danielle Joleigh Bennett. I am the president and CEO of Radiant Legacy Collective Incorporated, a company I started to help founders and leaders stop building on top of chaos, find the way to reduce the chaos within it, whether that's in leadership, team building, decision-making, or building operating systems. I have a background in United States Navy, aerospace, defense, program recovery, entrepreneurship, and manufacturing. And I do what I do because I love to see people achieve their full potential, whether it's coaching on the softball field or coaching in a boardroom. Same results.
Mm-hmm. I share that. I love to just like kind of almost like push people. It's like, you can do more. You can do more. Where does that come from for you?
I think for me, it's been an internal drive. So very intrinsically motivated person. It started when I was like 14. I really started getting into it. I was halfway decent playing soccer. Wouldn't say I was the best at it, but I could see the field and I could help other people get better. I got to play all the way to college, but I think for me, it's just the consistent work that I've done over time that has put me in a position where I just really enjoy what I do. I have passion and I'm obsessed. So, passion and obsession, very, very good combination.
Absolutely. What I keep hearing from you though is this investment that you make into other people. And I don't know how normal it is. We're talking really quickly about some of your awards, and what I got from that was the idea that you were more interested in creating information or giving people information that enabled them. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, that's a partially. I mean, that's kind of the beginning of what we do. We also help people find what it is that, let's just say stuck is a word that we hear all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm stuck. Well, I'm going to help you find out where you're stuck or what it is that's causing you to be stuck. Whether that is in your business, you're leaking profit, whether that is corporate in a boardroom where I'm helping you diagnose your team and figure out what is in the way. And earlier today, I was in a meeting, and if we don't know this as founders, then we should, and I'm going to say it, as founders or leaders even, we are our worst enemy. If our business isn't growing, the reason is because we're not doing something right. Having somebody come in and show you, not come in there and tell you how bad your business is or anything in that nature, but come in there and show you that there's a few things that you could shore up and your business could grow again. That's the kind of content that I like to share. That's the kind of thing that I like to just give away or work around or give companies. And I'm a sucker for doing it because like I said a minute ago, I'm just so passionate about seeing other people succeed.
Yeah. The stuck thing, pun intended, I guess, the stuck thing sticks with me. I see a lot of business owners. I see a lot of founders. They're building their companies, to a certain point, and then they just hit this plateau. As I mean, life is happening. Things are changing, et cetera, et cetera. And no matter what it is, we try to think from the perspective that we're going to keep going. But what happens? I mean, I see these. Let's say they're on the verge of burnout. How do you direct them? How do you get them back on track? How do you get them back in the right mindset where they're just like, okay, it's go time. Let's get back on the train.
Yeah, as you know, and most of your listeners know already, we get to a point where we're working so much or doing so much that we just aren't able to give everything we can to it. So I
Hmm.
walk in, I help people see what is going around them, what is most important, prioritize, and then look at, okay, do you want, hey, you got $1 million a year business. Is that where you want to be? Fine, I'm okay with that. If you're okay with that, right? The coach in me says, no, you can do better. But you know, as a founder, if you want $1 million business, if that's your goal and you're right at that precipice, but you're starting to see reduction, well, typically the founder's in the way, right? So I can go in there and I can help them see where they're in the way. I have a business diagnostic tool that's used by about I think it's 3,500 coaches now, 3,500 different coaches across the United States and the world that can go in and show, okay, if we look at this one area, there's 12 areas that we focus in, but if we look at one, we can help with that. So I help founders take a step back, see what's going on, put their business in a mirror, and
Hmm.
then help them grow from there. And my project management and project recovery skills weigh in a lot here.
Yeah, yeah. Can you dig into that a little bit more in terms of the diagnosis? Like what areas we're looking at, what kind of challenges you see, especially the blind spots. The blind spots are always the thing that's just like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
So let's say we're a founder, we start our business. One very specific area that is our pricing, right?
Mm,
Smaller businesses tend to have pricing that is lower than what the market. And sometimes that's necessary. You start at a lower price because you broke into the market. Now you're 25, 30% below market and you've saturated the space that you're in. So we look at, can we increase pricing knowing that we may lose 20% of our customers typically, but we're going to gain this new pool of people who are looking for something just a little bit more than we were having before, right? It's kind of like the budget aisle versus the next step. And I'm not saying we're trying to do that, but I did it. I'm sure you did it. You came into the market at a price where you knew that you could get people to buy, whether that was free or low cost. You did that so that you could show proof of concept, and then we typically don't go back and look. Another space that we look at is, what is our market dominating position? What is it, or a unique selling point is in sales? We call it a market dominating position. What is different about my one of 1,000 roofing companies in a 5 mile radius that people need to call me for?
yeah.
Right? Because if I have 100 customers because I did one cul-de-sac and now I want 100 more customers, I have to start to differentiating myself. We help founders start to differentiate themselves. The cool thing, in my opinion, the better piece of this is when you're differentiating, it's not costing you anything,
Hmm.
right? We're looking at where your customers are, what are the problems that they're solving,
Hmm.
and we're doing almost a self-assessment of your business.
Mm.
So we'll look at marketing, of course. We'll look at, like I said, 12 different areas, and it's called the Profit Acceleration Software. You can see that on my website. If you just go to ds7precision.com/simulator, it'll take you right there. It'll give you that. You put in your email address, your current revenue, current profit rates. It'll send you a report, and out of that, you'll have all 12 areas that we assess. For this is free. This is our giveaway,
Cool.
and it'll give you a video, about 3-minute video on each of those 12 areas. And then you can come back and you can say, yep, not for me, or hey, this is exactly what I need, or wow, I really do need an advisor. Because I can tell you, Rick, I'm not going to put my kids on the softball field without a coach in the dugout. So why would we build a business without a coach in our dugout?
Yeah, yeah. I keep hearing that conversation over and over again. Do you have coaches like that you work with? As in
I
like
do.
people that coach you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I have a coach. somebody that is where I want to be or where I think I'm going next, I have a coach there. I have a business coach. I have a personal coach. I have two therapists. So yeah, I mean, these are things that I really am trying, because what I do today is not necessarily what I need to do tomorrow, but I need to at least have a trajectory of where I want to go. At Radiant Legacy Collective, we care and we want to help 100 million people in the next 10 years grow in their space, whatever that may be, whether that's personal space, faith-based space, a business space, whether or not anybody that feels like they need a space, we're going to help them.
I want to ask you about your coaches, and I'm going to ask you this from a human perspective. How would you describe the return on investment that you're getting from your coaches? You're investing time, you're also investing money, and then you have to, obviously implement and do the things that your coaches are advising. How would you describe that return on investment?
For me, I'm investing in the coach's time because they have been somewhere that I have not yet been able to go.
Hmm.
So I'm not looking at it as a necessarily just as a return on my investment. I'm looking at it as, not only do I get a return on my investment, which is fairly good. We also offer leadership coaching and packages that can do both. However, not only do I get that, I get a perspective that I don't have, another perspective I don't have. And on top of that, most of the time I'm gaining a friend, a network, right? So I'm
Uh,
tapping in not only to them as a coach, but into their network as well. So when you tap into somebody else's network, they may not be the ones that are helping you, but they're willing to go out and talk to their network because they know you now.
yeah.
So it depends how you define return on investment. For me, it's a personal growth strategy. So I'm intentional about what I do. I have a growth plan. I have my 30, 60, 90-day plan, and I have action and milestones that I'm hitting at each of these. And then before I leave any of my coaching sessions, I tell my coach what I'm going to do, what I need help with, and where I'm going next.
Nice. How would you recommend someone find the right coach? I mean, there are thousands, millions of coaches out there. With personality, there are a lot of components that go into finding the right coach. What would you suggest to someone?
Well, as you said, they're individually based. Yeah. Like to have my coaches take a disc assessment so I know how they
Really?
communicate. Yeah, it helps that I'm a practitioner and a retailer of disc, everything disc. So I like to have them take an assessment. Are we going to communicate together? Is our communication style going to flow? I have one coach that's a complete opposite from me on this scale. So I'm a DI, and they're a C, right? I want that perspective. I want other perspectives within my life. So for me, I want somebody who can challenge me. For that, I'm not looking for somebody that has the same thought. So when
Hmm.
I talk to people about whether or not I'm even the right coach for them, the question I'm asking is, what are you trying to get out of this?
Hmm.
Where are you trying to go? How do you communicate? And I have a network of coaches. So if I'm not the right one, I'm
Hmm.
happy to refer you out because I care more about your success than I do about your dollars.
Yeah. 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 That's fantastic. Do what do you do where you and your coach have completely different communication styles, but you recognize that you want to work with that person?
Yeah, I read this book a long time ago called Crucial Conversations, right?
Mm.
I don't even remember who wrote it, but I read it. I think I was deployed to Syria at the time and I was reading this book.
Hmm.
And the thing that kept coming up is, don't let it linger.
Hmm.
So my recommendation or advice is, when you go into a coaching relationship, because it's a relationship, set ground rules. Just like if you go into a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, there's ground rules before you show up. You're
Hmm.
agreeing to those ground rules.
Hmm.
If you're picking a coach that is going to have a different perspective, which is most of the time good and sometimes not, right? Depending on where you're at in industry. When you're picking a coach that has a different viewpoint than you, as long as you both know where you're trying to go,
Hmm.
you might not always take their advice,
Hmm.
but at least you're getting that feedback. You're getting that other side of the coin. You're getting that, because I also am not a big fan of a coach that will just be like, don't do that. You can't do that. right? Can't is the least favorite word that in the dictionary, if you ask me. I don't know if it's in the dictionary, but it's my least favorite word.
Uh-huh.
And when we look at from a coaching perspective, what I want to see is somebody that challenges me, but doesn't degrade me,
Mm,
right? Doesn't just dismiss me. Especially as a woman, I find myself being dismissed in other conversations before my opinion's even had, right? So just just building that relationship. I offer a 30-day free trial anyways. So you can come in, you can get 4 sessions with me at absolutely no cost. We can build out your plan. We can do the work. But I'm so certain that you're going to stay because I'm going to adapt as a coach to you. If
mhm.
you come in and you tell me that you are a pushover and you're working on not being a pushover, well, then I'm going to develop a plan for you not to become a pushover without coming outside of who you are at your core.
Yeah.
It's not going to be comfortable, but we have to live in our discomfort in order to grow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the only way we can really reach our potential. It's just like, go to the gym playing sports. If we don't push harder, we're not going to get to that next level. That makes absolutely perfect
Mhm.
sense. My question is, so I want to go back to the assessment, right? So we get the assessment, work with you, we develop a plan. The challenge that I see with a lot of companies is being able to complete a business transformation. We look at, and sometimes transformations take a very, very long time. We have to make adjustments in that. But how do you guide someone through? How do you guide people through or companies through, that process?
So there's incremental change and transformational change. Incremental change, I'm changing something. Let's say I'm going to use a Navy reference because I was in the military or in the Navy. I'm going to take a big ship 1 degree at a time to get to the heading I need to go to, but I have a longer place to go. Transformational leadership, I'm going to I'm going to crank on that helm so hard that I'm going to turn right now,
Mm,
right? So transformation requires breaking everything or being ready to break everything. Where incremental change, I can make small changes, small adjustments. And we talk about that when I walk into an organization or when an organization invites me in. We talk about that. If you're not ready for a transformational change, you're wasting your money and I won't work with you. If you want incremental change, I'll work with you. That's fine. It's a different cost. But a transformational change, we're going to rebuild from the ground up. Typically going to happen in a pivot. It's going to
mhm,
happen in a merger. It's going to happen in different areas where you have to change the culture of the business and you have to do this now. You're doing it sense of urgency. I like Southwest Airlines as an example here. I don't remember when they were started, but back when they were founded, they were starting to expand and they have a track record of growing at a 5% profit rate year over year.
mhm,
But they were near bankruptcy while they were trying to get out. And they transformed their turnover process. So a plane comes in, every single person that is part of the crew, the pilots, everyone comes in. They help clean that up. That is completely different from the industry standard. And you can see if you've been on planes lately, the rest of the industry is catching up. Why? Because in order for them to be able to fly with the planes that they had, and you can Google this if you want, don't fact check me, but I know I've studied it like 3 times, but I don't have it memorized.
uh-huh,
So they went from a 1 hour to a half an hour turnover. So now
uh,
they're flying more. That
yeah,
one change, that one transformational change across the business saved Southwest Airlines
yeah, yeah,
early on in their startup phase. So when we talk transformation, we're really, really looking at tearing apart either a simple business process, a department. Okay, tearing apart is probably not the right word, but transform. In order to transform, we're going to break everything and we're going
mhm,
to find out what works and what doesn't.
okay, okay. Now, the one piece of this that may be critical, and I'm just thinking about the listeners, is the planning part, the strategic planning part of that. Where we've got to figure out, we want to keep the business running. We want to keep, the team, et cetera, et cetera. And so guide us through that piece of that, just so that again, we have an understanding of what to expect when you say, hey, we're gonna do a transformation.
Yeah. So I think I often explain this as we're going to change the engine on the airplane while we're flying, right?
That's yes.
I mean, imagine that, right? You have to figure out how to go 600 miles an hour. I think 600 miles an hour, remove an engine and put that engine back in, right? So you're anticipating where you're going to be next. And
Yeah.
that's what I mean by that, right? You're
Yeah.
anticipating where you're going to be next and where your destination is going to be. So, in a transformational change, I would walk in. We will talk about where are you, what is holding you back, where are you trying to go, and then we will start with change agents. We'll train the team. We'll train a very small core group. I like to start in the middle. I call it the messy middle, right? I want the middle, the managers that are on the floor. I want the team members. I want somebody, let's say we're in a manufacturing organization. I want somebody putting the widget together on my
Hmm.
team
Hmm.
because I want to know everything that is wrong,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then we're going to build that. So we're going to start by first understanding our business, because believe it or not, a lot of times we're implementing AI these days. We're changing our business, we're changing our processes, and we really don't know. We think we know what our process is, but we don't really know what our process is. So we have to first map out what our true process is. What does our business really look like? What is helping, what is hurting. And in some cases, getting through phase one, we realize we don't need transformational change. We just need an incremental change. We need a small change to move this direction. And or maybe it was, and this hurts, but maybe it was a person. This is rare. I typically like to go after process, but sometimes it is a person. It is somebody that is in the wrong spot on the bus. And then just by finding and talking to them. So when it comes to transformational change, I definitely like to start with a big audit. And when we're talking transformation, we're talking businesses $5 million and over, right? A pivot in a smaller business is much different than transformation. You have a good foundation, you have a good framework, you're making some money, but you're pivoting over into this new market.
Yeah. Yeah. The other piece I'm curious about is, um, the leadership. It's like if the leadership isn't checked into the change, isn't really fulfilling the role. And I think, if we think about like that inflection point when a company goes, into that next million or, whatever that is, it requires a different type of leadership. How do you ensure the leadership is ready to handle that transformation and ready to handle that next level of business?
Yeah, so we're going to go back to a good old assessment here, the DISC assessment. I like to start my executive teams with a DISC assessment, understand how they're going to go through this process. And then I like to have my managers do that, and then eventually I want my whole team. I want to know where each of these leaders are within the process. So not only that, this I I write a fairly decent scope of work, contracting work in the military. So, you're going to write a fairly decent scope of work, create a traceability matrix,
Hmm.
and then you're going to check that off as a checklist as you go, right? So, military speak, point, read, operate, right? We're going to point at the problem. We're going to make sure that's exactly what we need, and then we're going to fix the problem. So we're going to, and then as we move forward within the business, as we go, I do what I call a leadership voltage index assessment.
Okay.
As part of my book, Leadership Voltage, I introduced the LVI, or Leadership Voltage Index. And every 6 weeks, we're going to remeasure this. And this is the emotional side of the emotionally intelligent side of your business. So not
Okay.
only do I want to measure operational performance, I want to measure how the team is handling this. And with my background in organizational change leadership, this was something that it just felt right adding into my book. So not only do I know how you communicate and what's going to get you to where you want to go, I know what your goals are because you told me what they are. You told me where your vision is going. We're not just going to throw up. I don't know how many times you've seen this, Rick, where or even in your listeners here, where we say we made a change, but
Hmm.
nobody follows up on that change. We got all this
Hmm.
new stuff all over the wall,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these new slogans that say do better with less, right? And we're actually going to do some of that. I honestly believe you need an identity in order to move forward, but we're going to add the crucial piece of that, and that's feedback. So we're gonna assess this every 6 weeks or more, depending on the size of the company and whether or not we want to do that. So transformational change within an organization, within a division of an organization, is just as possible.
Hmm.
You just need to have the right sponsors
Yeah.
within that. I don't know. For me, most of my space is in design, development, production, right? And
Hmm.
each of those requires a different skill set,
Hmm.
and the team is transforming at each level. So going from a qualified design into low rate production and then high rate production takes a different set of skills. It is a mini transformation within the organization. And a lot of times that's where I'm focused, because I want to make sure that that transitional piece, we're not losing something. So I want to get into a company before they're losing money. And sometimes I'm just dropped in, you're $25 million in the hole and you need to shore that up.
Hmm.
The first thing I'm going to do is assess the team. I want to know what the team is doing. I want to know if they feel empowered. I want to know if they feel autonomous. I want to know if they I want to know the names of their kids. I want to know where I want to know anything about my team that I possibly can, so that I can plan that into my transformation. I want to know, I know that July and August are high impact day months for when I want to go on vacation. So I
Hmm.
know that I'm going to have 3/4 of my workforce. So I'm not going to plan for a full workforce in July and August.
Right.
So knowing where I want to go and then pull planning from the destination backwards is where I like to start.
That makes sense. You kind of tossed a little, what do you call it, Easter egg in there with the leadership voltage index. What is that? Why is that important?
So for a lot of years as a program manager, I went to course or school after class, after certification, for how to better perform.
Hmm.
How do I better perform under pressure? I went to a separate course or a separate class on how does my performance impact somebody else, right? So the emotional intelligence side with the leadership voltage index, or the LVI, we measure both. So we want to measure at the same, well, simultaneously. I wouldn't say at the same time, but simultaneously in parallel, we're going to measure the output via certain KPIs. But we're going
Hmm.
to add in these indicators that are going to help us understand, during this transition, did we burn people out? Was it our process problem? Was it a people problem? So we measure this across 4 planes of leadership, including the strategic, operational, relational, and emotional spaces. And then we measure in each quadrant via a comprehensive assessment, almost similar to what a DISC would do,
Hmm.
but we're measuring for something else. DISC is measuring how you communicate, KPIs are measuring how you did. And I want to know, how are you sustainable? So am I able to sustain superior performance over a long period of time? Yes or no? And the LVI helps me determine that. And I do that every 6 weeks. And again, and I explain it in a little more detail in my book, Leadership Voltage, Capturing Lightning with the Triadic Balance. And in that book, I introduce the Triadic Balance.
You
Being
have
in
to
the
go into that a
military,
little bit.
yeah, the triad, right? Being in the military, you have the triad. So you have the operational person, the one that is in control, right?
Hmm.
You have the HR, or the one, and then you have this other entity there that is kind of like admin. So I turn these into different energies that we all carry:
Hmm.
shadow, ash, and grace.
Okay.
Shadow being that protection side, or we can get into the truth telling. That's our truth teller, but also can spiral into shame. So if we spiral into that shame, right, we're not any good as a leader. On the ash side, I'm looking at like the Angela Duckworths, the Mel Robbins, the Cameron Haynes of the world, right? They're very much action oriented, but when we don't have a balance here, we're also burning bridges at every place. So how are you sustainable if you're burning bridges? How are
Yeah.
you sustainable if you're not? And then grace, our interrelated energy that we have. And we all lead like this. I call them energies, call them whatever you want, but I call them energies just because that's kind of how they show up in our lives, right? And we need them. So if I'm on the operational side of the leadership plane, I want an ash forward leader. Why? Because I want somebody who cares about results. But I don't want them to be so forward in the ash that they're burning the team out, right? So I'll have them. So I want ash first with maybe a gray secondary, right? And then a shadow follow. So I kind of want each of these as a leader. And if you think about in your life, for me, I don't know for the listeners here, but when I do something wrong, first thing I do is go internal. So this was a way to understand that, okay, I do have this problem. I do have this issue right here, right now.
Hmm.
And I'm a shadow first leader. So I'm like, hi, shadow, I see you. Yes, we messed up, but we're going to fix this, right? So I can get out of that shame spiral faster by
Right.
acknowledging this without going straight into ash energy or straight into burning bridges down, right?
Hmm.
I know we've all had it where we get into a meeting, that meeting didn't go very well, and you're dreading the 15 minutes after that meeting because you know that you're going to get 16 IMs and a bunch of phone calls about how crappy you are.
Hmm.
That's the kind of leadership energy that we're really trying, really working to reduce, right? So we improve communication, we improve the knowledge around the team, we improve execution because nobody's going to work showing up expecting to not do a good job. So we start with the premise that everybody is coming to work expecting to contribute to the state of the business, and then we work backwards if we have to. So we could have a whole podcast episode just on the triadic balance, but maybe you can wait till my next book comes out in the fall called The Triadic Balance, but we do introduce it in Leadership Voltage.
We'll have to have that conversation if you'd be willing to. I'm really curious though. You said you're a shadow first leader. So what I took from that is, and you'd mentioned that we needed to have essentially that balance in the leadership team. We need to have someone at shadow first, ash first, and grace first, right? So I think, and this is just me talking. When I think about the way that you describe the shadow first leader, it sounds almost like a negative thing. It sounds almost like something that I don't want to I don't want to put out there. I mean, give me a little bit more. Help me understand what that means, what that really means.
Yeah, for sure. So as we talked about, we do have all of the energies. And what I'm getting at is when I am leading, right? I'm in and something goes wrong, I internalize first.
Yeah.
So I self sabotage. If I'm not aware of this, I
Right.
can very much self sabotage. And my self sabotage goes straight from shadow to ash, right? So knowing that, so if we're familiar with shame researchers like Brene Brown,
Hmm.
right? That space of vulnerability. So shadow first is not bad at all. I don't believe from my side. But what I'm getting at is that's my truth teller. That's the drive inside of me. That's the intrinsic motivation that's getting me to do things. Not very. I don't want to go as far as saying introverted energy, but because it's completely different. But it's similar in the sense of when I see a problem, the very first thing I think to do is take ownership of that problem. And if something goes wrong with that situation, and I start to internalize and start to tell myself I'm not good enough to do this work, I'm not in the right place, I will shift into that aggressive energy that I'm not trying to display all the time. Now, that doesn't mean that our ash forward leaders are aggressive. That just means that they are very much focused in action, right?
Hmm.
They get things done type of leader. I'm not saying that I'm not, but I'm very much more of a strategic thinker.
Yeah.
I need to sharpen the axe before I chop the tree down. Whereas some people can just go straight into chopping the tree down. It's gonna take us maybe the same amount of time, but I'm gonna spend less effort doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. What I hear is that this is how these three categories are how we respond to whatever's happening, and what it was going through our mind is like fear. And so if something happens that makes us afraid, we're gonna freeze, fight, or flee. and that's just our nature. But we learn by understanding fear, by understanding ourselves better, we can better regulate how we respond to fear. Is that along the lines of what you're saying?
Yeah, and if maybe I can yes, very much so. I wouldn't say they're fight, flight, or freeze. I would say that our shadow first leaders, and I'm cheating here. I'm looking at my notes now. Leads through right our truth, our pattern recognition, risk awareness, depth perception. Right, very much critical thinkers.
Yeah.
We notice a gap between what people are saying and what is actually happening, right? Strategic side of things, very much diagnostic at first, right? Which is why I believe that as a program manager, being a shadow first leader is one of my strengths, right? Because the shadow first leader is going to bring me clarity, discernment,
Yeah.
that risk awareness I was talking about, emotional honesty, and a few others. I won't go all the way in it. If I'm an Ash first leader, as you mentioned, or as we've been talking through, you lead with action, decision, execution, rebuilding, right?
Hmm.
And we can go between each of these. I just know where my strengths are. I know where
Yeah.
I'm at. So an Ash for first leader is going to bring momentum. They may be more decisive. They definitely are execution focused. They need little recovery, but they you want them in your recovery kind of spaces. They're going to be operationally disciplined, right? They're going to follow that task list very much. They enjoy solving problems, but they'll consult with that other leader, and then they like to rebuild. So none of these are good inherently or bad inherently.
That's what they
I
are.
you just exactly. You just kind of have to know, like just like a disc, right? None of that is good inherently or bad inherently. We just need to understand where we are
Hmm.
so we know what our strengths are. So if I'm a grace first leader, right, which is very much that relational energy, that the courage, integration, meaning, trust, and human restoration is how I explain it. At their best, our grace first leaders they're going to bring their courage, compassion, integration between those leaders, belonging, emotional authority, trust repair, kind of a charismatic person, right?
Hmm.
And so just very much, like I said, we need all of them. So like I'm a shadow first leader with, so I would say shadow leading,
Hmm.
Ash secondary, and then Grace is the caboose here. So for me, and that doesn't mean they're inherently, again, not good or bad. Just knowing where you are, right?
Hmm.
I want to do things right,
Yeah.
but I want to delegate and empower my team. The Ash first leader is very much that go getter, going to step in when things are. And then the Grace is going to be that relational love. So,
That makes sense. That makes sense. I was thinking about like with the disc, typically, we all have, all four characteristics, but we tend to lead with, one or two, or even with the Myers-Briggs, it's
yeah,
like, and I found it to be we did, my team did the Myers-Briggs assessment, and it was a big deal because we were communicating, we were growing really fast. And so there were issues with like between management, and it was like, we're communicating differently. We still have the same goal. We still have the same vision. We're just talking about things a little bit differently, and things were getting confusing. But that makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you for taking the time to share that with me. Let's talk about your book. We didn't get a chance to talk about, why you wrote the book, who it's for, what you want people to get out of it.
yeah. So leadership voltage, capturing lightning with the triadic balance. We just kind of talked about the triadic balance. Over the last 25 years of coaching, maybe 26 are going on there, I have found myself able to shift those energies within a team, realign, build a team from nothing, or a disruptive team, and help them grow. So the leadership voltage came out of that.
Mhm.
And part of it was because as we mentioned, we need all three of these energies. And being in the military for many years, pretty much was coming back and forth. So I would go into maybe a shame spiral, and then I just get frustrated and upset, right? And then I go backwards. So I needed something in order to personify the things that were happening within my own life. And then that helped explain why the leadership frameworks that I was working through were actually working. In 2025, I went, I was going through a lot. My My cousin Trisha committed suicide in March of 25, and being good in the emergency spaces, and that not responder. I'm not an emergency responder, but emergency management. When something is wrong, you want somebody like me to show up, right? So I was able to take a house that was unlivable and help, not me, but the people that came to support. But I was able to help coordinate in 3 days a house that was unlivable into a livable condition, and trying and then doing self-reflection, trying to figure out, okay, what was it about this? In 2019, I did this with a team right after I got out of the military. I went into an organization, similar situation, not suicide, but similar situation where the team was degraded. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know which way was up. We gave ourselves an identity, and then we took a program that wasn't supposed to complete on time or within the contract value. I won't say on budget, but I'll say in the contract value. And we took that and we were able to, through COVID, deliver on that. It was the first contract in many years that had delivered on time to the shipyard that we were
Nice.
delivering to. And then coming back into 25, so cousin Trisha, and then shortly after my mom passed away, and going through each of these different life events pushed me into writing this book. At the same time, I was building a franchise called Mosquito Nix, and I operate in Madison, Wisconsin, and Waukesha County. We were growing our coaching practice from, into business advisory as well as leadership advisory.
Mhm.
And I was working a full-time W2 job. So there was a lot going on, and I needed to understand better for myself how it was that I was able to continue to do these things. How am I able to push forward every day? Kind of why I liked the opportunity to come onto this podcast, the relentless pursuit of winning. And I love that word, relentless. So working through this, but yeah, the audience of the book is leaders under pressure, leaders in chaos, growth. Anybody that is looking for personal growth. It's not our main target, but it definitely will help you get into that. The idea of the leadership voltage is understanding myself better so I can lead others to their full potential.
It's got to be an amazing book. We always want to operate at our highest and best, because it's not just us, it's the people that are following after us and they're looking to us, for example, for leadership. It's like, where are we going? What are we doing? So something like that, it's got to be, it's almost got to be a primer.
It
Last
is.
question for you. I think you know it's coming. So the name of the show obviously is The Relentless Pursuit of Winning. And winning is that thing that, is pretty easy, generally pretty easy to identify because it can be in any area. But the hard part of that is that relentless pursuit. What would you recommend to someone in order to help them maintain that relentless pursuit?
Read my book. No,
That wasn't a sales
outside.
pitch at all.
No, I mean outside. Well, I mean, I just spent the whole year taking 25 years of notes and putting it together for this exact purpose. So
Yeah.
what I mean, yeah, a small pitch there, but yes, I was completely being honest. But we're all going to hit that wall. We're going to get to that place where maybe we told somebody about our dream and they gave us back their fears, right? They give us
Yeah.
back what they believed was the reason you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Maybe we started a business and it's not going so well, and we're at this precipice moment where we're like, exactly that, this relentlessness, right, is
Hmm.
is going away. Well, you reach out to people like you, right? You reach out to people like coaches or business coaches. You reach out to somebody who has been in the situation before, and you have a conversation with them, and you figure out what was it that they did. For me, I hit that wall probably about 5 times in the last year, right? Where I get to that wall, and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, sometimes the only way over is through. So what tools in my toolbox do I have to get through this wall? And what tools do the people around me have that may help me get through this wall? And so once you get to the other side of that wall, you're not out of the woods yet, right? You might start to get your energy back, but you're going to need somebody there with you. So having a coach, having somebody that can help you, somebody you can turn to, that knows the industry, that knows the business, that knows how businesses operate and run, knows how to get from, I started as an E1 back in the Navy. I think I was making like $1,000 a month or something back, and it was like 2005. And then before that, I was a dishwasher. I was a lifeguard, right? And I wanted more for my life. So what did I do? I sought out people who had more and were in a place where I wanted to be. And then I studied them, whether it was through a book, a phone call, an email, a podcast like this. I listened to thousands of hours of podcasts. I've read 1,000 different books on leadership and personal growth,
Mhm.
tie them together.
Mhm.
And I think if we can, when we get to that point where we want to give up, we just remember it's a choice. And being relentless doesn't necessarily mean not making mistakes, not wanting to give up, not wanting to do other things. It is in my opinion, it's obsessive energy of one goal that we have, right? Mine is I want to help 100 million people achieve greatness in the next 10 years. There are many people that are listening right now, even that say 100 million people, that's not achievable. It is, because I started with one, I got to 10, then I got to 100, then I got to 1,000, then I got to 100,000, right? And when you
Mhm.
can start to get to that point, paid or unpaid doesn't really matter to me. My goal is to help as many people as possible. So when you find yourself in that moment where it's hard to move forward, remember your why. Know that slowing down is not quitting, and the only time you can fail is if you hang it up.
Yeah. And quitting is a choice. That's huge. That's huge. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being on the show. If someone needs to get in touch with you, somebody wants to get your book, we talked about where to get the assessment. Can you go through those items real quick? We'll put them in the show notes, but just for our listeners.
Yeah, so if you want to work with me, Danielle Joleigh Bennett, Joleigh is Jolie. So DanielleJoleighBennett.com. You can get to any of my services from there. You can also contact me right through there. And if you're not much of a website goer, just go to LinkedIn and connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Danielle Joleigh Bennett. And if you're on other socials, I'm there as well, but you can find all of that from my website as well as my socials. And if you're still not convinced, go to radiantlegacycollective.com, and right there we tell you why it is we're doing what we do. And quite honestly, I think when I'm looking for somebody who I want to be with, I want somebody who is going to show up at 4:00 in the morning and help me study to become a doctor without holding that against me, than somebody that's just going to email me and tell me I should study. Because that's the kind of person you get when you work with me. If you work with me and you're in a position where you need somebody sleeves up, that's where I'm going to be. I'm going to be there with you, going through this with you. And so I appreciate you having me on the show, and thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been absolutely phenomenal. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. Folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.